Bede's book covers the spread of Christianity in England and the lives of the early saints and church leaders, and the various political and social developments that affected the church during this time period. It is considered one of the most important sources for understanding the early history of Christianity in England. Bede's translation of the Gospel of John helped to make the teachings of the Bible more accessible to the Anglo-Saxon people. He produced the translation during his time at the monastery of Wearmouth Jarrow. The translation has historical value as one of the earliest known translations of the Gospels into Old English, and one of the first works of literature to be written in the English language. The translation was likely intended for use in the liturgy of the Church, as Old English was becoming more widely spoken in England at the time. It would have been read aloud in Old English rather than in Latin. Bede's translation of the Gospel of John is a significant work in the history of Christian literature for several reasons. Firstly, it is one of the earliest translations of the Gospel into Old English, which was a language that was still evolving at the time. This means that Bede's translation provides an important insight into the development of the English language. Secondly, Bede's translation is notable for its literary quality. Bede was a skilled writer and scholar, and his translation is marked by its clarity, elegance, and poetic language. It is considered one of the finest examples of Old English literature, and has been praised for its vivid descriptions and metaphors. By contrast, Martin Luther is known to have used vulgar and scatological language in his writings and conversations. One example of Luther's use of vulgar language is his Table Talk, a collection of informal conversations and anecdotes recorded by his followers. In these conversations, Luther often used coarse language and made jokes about bodily functions, including farting and defecation. Coincidentally, Adolf Hitler also held table talks recorded by his followers. This image is by Hans von Holbein the Younger, called Luther as German Hercules from 1523. Make of the image what you will, but this is Luther attacking members of another church. This paper is called German Hercules, the impact of scatology on the definition of Martin Luther as a man. Scatology is defined as the fascination with excrement. Scatology refers to the study or fascination with feces, or the use of vulgar language or humor related to fecal matter. It is often associated with taboo or obscene topics and is considered inappropriate in many social settings. Alexa, what is the meaning of scatology?
Scatology is usually defined as the study of or preoccupation with excrement or obscenity.
The study of the fascination with excrement or obscenity. I believe that tells us a little bit about Martin Luther. In the introduction of this paper, the writings of Martin Luther are amongst the most studied in the world. Martin Luther's employment of vulgarity, and specifically scatological vulgarity, has drawn criticism, embarrassment, and accusations of psychological instability. Now, the paper does go on to defend Martin Luther's use of scatology, his use of vulgar language, his fascination with excrement. One might think that that is not appropriate for someone who is supposedly a great theological giant who wants to tell us about Jesus and holiness. And that does lead to quite an interesting contrast with, for instance, the words of Bede. Thirdly, Bede's translation of the Gospel of John was part of a larger project to translate the Bible into Old English. While not all of his translations have survived, his work on the Gospel of John remains an important contribution to the history of English literature and the development of the English language. Finally, Bede's translation of the Gospel of John was likely intended for use in the liturgy of the Church. This means that it played an important role in the spread of Christianity in England, and helped to establish the Church of England as a dominant religious institution in the country. Bede's magnum opus is the 731 AD work Historia Ecclesiastica Gentis Anglorum, or the Ecclesiastical History of the English People. Divided into 5 books, it is a main source for understanding the arrival of Christianity in early British history. Historia Ecclesiastica recorded crucial events of history right from the raids by Julius Caesar to the arrival of St. Augustine in Kent, and the progress of Christianity in England. Bede tells us in his Ecclesiastical History of the English People, all the English kingdoms were brought together into one unified church. Fortunately, Martin Luther fixed that by creating a number of denominations that disagree, because diversity is our strength. In subsequent centuries, the unity of that church and popularity of Bede's ecclesiastical history both played a part in facilitating the political union of the different regions into a single English kingdom. It became the first book of history in which the AD system of dating was used, He used Anno Domini dating over the then current, the 65th year of the reign of Queen Elizabeth and the 3rd year of the pontificate of Pope Francis. Bede is known to have introduced several turns of phrase into English. As noted above, one of the most famous examples is his use of the phrase Anno Domini to refer to the year of Christ's birth. This phrase, which means in the year of our Lord, became a standard way of dating events in English and is still in use today. Bede used poetic language and metaphors in his writing. For example, he describes the arrival of the first Christian missionaries in England as the light of Christ shining in the darkness of pagan Britain. This metaphor has become a popular way of describing the spread of Christianity throughout the world. Another example of Bede's use of language is his description of the relationship between the church and the state. He uses the metaphor of the two swords, with the church holding the spiritual sword and the state holding the temporal sword. This metaphor has had a lasting impact on the relationship between church and state in Western societies. Bede's use of language was marked by his poetic sensibility and his ability to express complex ideas in simple, clear terms. His writing has had a profound impact on the development of the English language and the history of English literature. Of course, when we refer back to Martin Luther, at least we probably have an enormous assortment of poop and fart jokes that we can refer to, which he might also have added to the English language. We should look into that. Someone please have a look and let me know. Thank you.